You're not allowed to bring store-bought food, only homemade. My sister texted in the family group chat. Those are the rules. So I stayed home. At 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving, while I was on my couch in sweatpants, finishing a bowl of reheated chili, my phone lit up with a new text from my dad. Where's the turkey? You were supposed to bring it. I stared at the screen for a second, took a slow breath, and typed back. I thought store-bought wasn't allowed. Then I put my phone face down and listened to the quiet of my apartment instead of the chaos I knew was exploding on the other end. Sup Reddit. I'm Mark. I'm 36, a primary care physician in a mid-sized city in the Midwest. I work in a large multi-clinic system attached to a hospital. I average about 60 hours a week, more when flu season hits, and everyone in town suddenly remembers they have a doctor. I'm the oldest child, the responsible one, and also apparently the designated Thanksgiving turkey mule, at least according to my sister. I'm telling this story now because my mom has already started hinting about fixing things for next year and coming back together as a family. And I'm realizing I'm not interested in going back to the version of together where my time is disposable and my boundaries are optional. Day to day, my life looks pretty normal for a doctor who isn't doing TV dramas. My mornings start with coffee in a travel mug that lives in my car, 20 minutes of traffic, and a waiting room full of people who didn't think it was urgent until they couldn't breathe. I split time between clinic visits, charting in our EMR under unforgiving fluorescent lights, and being the person nurses grab when someone's blood pressure or blood sugar looks terrifying. My phone buzzes constantly with portal messages. Hey doc, is this rash normal? Can I drink on this medication? Forgot to mention this to you at my last appointment. And then there's my unofficial second job, being my family's personal healthcare hotline and life support system. My parents had me when they were pretty young. I'm 36. My sister Jenna is 32. Our mom is a retired elementary school teacher. Our dad worked in maintenance for the school district until he had a minor heart attack 5 years ago and cut back to part-time. We grew up in a small house where you could smell dinner from any room, where we ate at the table every night and family time wasn't optional. Jenna has always been the artistic one. She married her college boyfriend Tyler, who works in sales for some regional beverage company. And now she's a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids and an Instagram that looks like Pinterest threw up Thanksgiving decor all over her life. According to my parents, she's so creative and so busy with the kids, and such a natural hostess. I'm the one who moved out, went to med school, took on 6 figures of debt, and now makes good money. According to everyone who doesn't see my loan statements in family shorthand, Mark can handle it. Covers everything from driving my parents to procedures to paying for the entire grocery bill since you earn more. That dynamic didn't pop up overnight. It built over years in 1,000 little scenes. There was the time 5 years ago when Dad had his heart attack. He ignored his chest discomfort for 3 hours because he didn't want to bother anyone until Mom called me in a panic. I was in clinic still in my white coat. I closed my laptop, told the medical assistant to move my afternoon patients, and drove too fast to get them to the ER. I stood next to the bed, translating cardiology jargon into plain English, arguing gently but firmly when a resident tried to discharge him too soon. I slept in a plastic visitor chair that dug into my back, jumping every time a monitor beeped. When he stabilized, Mom hugged me and said, "What would we do without you?" Then she turned to Jenna and said, "You're such a trooper, honey, keeping the kids calm through all of this." Later, when they wanted to update their wills, guess who they asked to look over the paperwork? Not a lawyer, not an estate planner. Me, because you're a doctor, you know about this stuff. I told them I'm not a lawyer. Suggested they get real legal advice. They nodded, ignored me, and then still forwarded me the drafts and asked, "Does this look okay?" I ended up spending a Saturday afternoon reading legalese and making a bullet list of things they should ask an actual attorney. They thanked me by saying, "Jenna sat with us for hours going through our options. She really stepped up." Holidays had their own pattern. Jenna loved to host in theory, but the execution usually landed on me. One Thanksgiving 3 years ago, I was on call until 6 a.m. for hospital admissions. I grabbed 2 hours of sleep, Then drove an hour to my parents' house with 3 pies I'd paid for at a bakery because there was no universe where I was hand-making anything after that night. When I walked in, exhausted and smelling faintly of hospital sanitizer, Mom hugged me and said, "Thank goodness you're here. Can you run back out and grab drinks?" Jenna forgot the sparkling cider, and there's no ice either. I turned around and went right back out. At dinner, Mom kept telling everyone how Jenna put this whole thing together, while Jenna gestured vaguely at the table and said it was a team effort. The team was in practice me, my credit card, and a grocery store rotisserie chicken emergency that I handled while she arranged decorative gourds. Money had a way of becoming my responsibility, too. When Jenna and Tyler wanted to buy their house, my parents called me. "We're thinking about helping them with the down payment," Dad said, voice carefully casual. "You know how hard it is for young families these days." At that point, I was 32, living in a small apartment with hand-me-down furniture, working 60-plus hours a week, and sending a significant part of my paycheck into the black hole of med school debt. But in their minds, Jenna and Tyler were the young family, and I was the financially secure bachelor with endless resources. They didn't actually ask me for money. Not that time. They just asked me to look over their numbers and make sure it makes sense. I pointed out their retirement savings were thin. I suggested they help a little, but not so much that it endangered their own stability. Mom frowned and said, "It's different for you, Mark. You don't have a family to support." Translation: your future theoretical children don't count. Hers do. Fast forward to last fall. Everyone's Halloween decorations were barely down when the Lopez family Thanksgiving 2023 group chat lit up. Yes, my parents named it. Yes, they used the turkey emoji. Mom started it. "Hi, my loves. Let's plan Thanksgiving early this year, so it's not all on me. I'm too old to cook everything." Jenna jumped in within minutes. "I was thinking we do it at Mom and Dad's again so the kids can stay in their routine. I'll handle decor and dessert. We should divide up the food, so it's fair." I was between patients scrolling this on my phone while my nurse prepped the next exam room. I typed, "I'm good to help, but I'm on a heavy rotation that week. 60, our minimum. I can bring something, but it needs to be realistic. I might be able to pick up some sides from the store." Jenna responded almost instantly. I could picture her thumbs flying, slightly offended frown already forming. Actually, she wrote, "Tyler and I were talking, and we really want to do it right this year. No store-bought food, only homemade. It just feels more special. Those are the rules." She added a smiley face like that softened it. I stared at "those are the rules," while my brain did that quiet, simmering anger thing. The nurse opened the door to let in my next patient, and I tucked my phone away, but the word stuck. That evening, after a 10-hour day and an hour commute thanks to a fender bender on the highway, I came home to my dark apartment and reheated leftovers. Then I opened the chat again. "Mom, I think that sounds lovely. Everyone can make something from the heart. I'll do mashed potatoes and green beans, maybe rolls. What about you, Mark?" I typed, deleted, retyped. Finally, I wrote, "I work 7 to 7 p.m. Monday through Wednesday that week, and I'm on call Wednesday night. Realistically, I can't do anything that requires hours in the kitchen. I'm happy to pay for a high-quality turkey or sides from a catering place. They're delicious, and it supports local business." Jenna, that feels like cheating, though. "We all have busy lives. Everyone can pitch in." Tyler chimed in for once. "Yeah, man. It's just one meal. It's family." That just one meal hit me sideways. I thought about every just they dropped on me over the years. Just pick Mom up from her appointment. Just stop by and fix Dad's computer. Just look at this rash on the kids. Just call your cardiology friend and ask if he can squeeze Dad in. Just cover the grocery bill. Just drive 3 hours after a night shift so we can all be together. Mom, if Jenna handles dessert and I do sides, maybe you could take the turkey. You're so organized. You'll figure it out. There it was. The main course. I typed. So, I'm supposed to work 12-hour days and also cook an entire turkey from scratch. When exactly am I doing that? Jenna's bubble popped up immediately. You can prep the night before. People do it all the time. You're single. You don't have to juggle kids, too. It was blunt, in a way she usually dressed up, and it landed exactly how she meant it. Your time matters less because you don't have a spouse and children. I stepped away from the phone. I washed my dishes. I took a shower that finally loosened the tension in my shoulders. Then I sat on my bed in a towel and reread the whole thread from the top. Mom's too old to cook everything. Janice, only homemade. Those are the rules. The assumption that the doctor who already runs on fumes can just magically add several hours of cooking to a week when half the town will be sick and squeezing in last-minute appointments. Here's the thing. I love Thanksgiving. I like the food, the smells, the little rituals of carving and passing plates. But I have started to hate who I turn into in that house. Tired, resentful, quietly doing whatever's needed while everyone talks over me. It hit me that they weren't going to change anything unless I did. So I made a decision that for me felt huge and for everyone else apparently felt like betrayal. I typed, I'm going to be very clear. I cannot take on cooking a turkey from scratch this year. I'm willing to bring a store-bought main dish or sides. If that's not acceptable, I'll sit this year out and we can do something another time. Then I put my phone down and went to bed. They didn't reply that night. The next morning, between patients, I checked. I had 3 new messages. Mom, let's not be dramatic, dear. We're just trying to make it special. Jenna, we all have to sacrifice a little for family. Mom is doing sides. I'm doing dessert. You're doing turkey. That's how it's always worked. We're not asking for the moon. Tyler, if you plan ahead, it's not that big a deal. I stared at that's how it's always worked. Yeah, that was the problem. I wrote, I'm not being dramatic. I literally do not have the hours to safely cook poultry from scratch that week without losing sleep I can't afford to lose. I offered a compromise. I pay for a quality prepared turkey. You said no. I'm telling you my limit. I will not be doing a homemade turkey. If that's a deal breaker, I won't be attending. Jenna left it on read. Mom sent a thumbs up emoji, which in our family is code for I'm not engaging with this. A couple days later, Mom called me. Mark, she said, skipping hello. I could hear talk radio murmuring in the background. Why are you being so rigid about this? Your sister has been planning this for weeks. Planning what? I asked. A meal where she sets the rules and I do the heavy lifting. That's not fair. Mom said she has the kids. You know how much work that is. All we're asking is 1 turkey. Mom, it's not 1 turkey. I said, keeping my voice level. It's hours of shopping, prep, roasting, resting, transporting. On a week where I'm already responsible for dozens of people's health, I offered to pay for a fully cooked bird from a place that probably does a better job than I would anyway. You guys decided that doesn't count. You're making this all about work, she said. The familiar edge creeping in. Family should come first. I put family first when I slept in a hospital chair during Dad's heart attack. I said quietly. I put family first when I drove 3 hours on no sleep to make to Thanksgiving after a night shift. But me setting one reasonable boundary doesn't mean I've stopped caring. It means I'm human. She sighed. I just don't want them to feel abandoned. So don't abandon them, I said. Cook a smaller turkey. Have Jenna do it. Order pizza. But I'm not the villain for not doing what I literally cannot do safely. We went in circles for a bit until she said, well, I hope you think about it, and hung up. I did think about it. I thought about it while I listened to lungs, and hearts murmur. I thought about it while I refilled blood pressure meds for people whose stress levels were killing them. And I realized if I caved again, I'd be teaching my family that my no is negotiable if they guilt me hard enough. So I stuck to it. Behind the scenes, I made sure I had somewhere to go. A friend of mine, Sam, another doctor in my practice, has what he calls Misfit Thanksgiving every year for coworkers who can't travel or don't have family nearby. When I told him the situation, he just shook his head and said, dude, my cousin did the same thing with Christmas. You're absolutely coming here. The week of Thanksgiving hit like a truck. Monday was packed with patients trying to just squeeze in before the holiday. Tuesday wasn't better. Wednesday, I was on call and ended up staying late to admit an elderly man with pneumonia whose daughter kept apologizing for ruining my holiday, while I told her calmly, that this is literally my job. By the time my shift ended on Thursday afternoon, I was bone-tired but weirdly light. I drove home through neighborhoods full of cars parked in driveways, catching glimpses of tables and people as I passed. I microwaved my chili, pulled on sweatpants, and texted Sam. Be there in an hour. Then I checked the family group chat. Mom had sent a few cheerful messages that morning. Happy Thanksgiving, my loves. Picture of her table runner. Picture of Jenna's kids holding construction paper turkeys. No mention of me. No one had asked about the turkey. No one had said, so what's the plan? They either assumed I'd caved or somehow the universe would provide a bird. At 7 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. I was halfway through packing up the containers I'd promised to bring to Sam's. Store-bought pumpkin pie and a bag of salad. Zero guilt. At 8:03 p.m., my screen lit up with a text from Dad. Where's the turkey? You were supposed to bring it. I actually laughed. It wasn't mean. It was that surprised, slightly hysterical laugh you get when people absolutely refuse to read reality. I texted back. I thought store-bought wasn't allowed. He responded almost instantly. We thought you were making it. Everyone is here waiting. The oven is ready. I typed, I told you multiple times I wouldn't be cooking a turkey. I offered to buy one. You declined. I made other plans. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then the call came in from Mom. Then Jenna. Then Dad again. I turned the ringer off, slid the phone into my jacket pocket, and headed to Sam's. At his place, there were about 10 people, nurses, a respiratory therapist, a pharmacist, a couple of residents. The living room smelled like roasted turkey and stuffing, and there was a football game humming in the background that no one was really watching. Sam's wife shoved a drink into my hand and said, rules are no talking about work for 30 minutes. After that, you can trauma dump all you want. It wasn't until after dessert, when the conversation had shifted to ridiculous patient stories and travel disasters, that I checked my phone again. A wall of messages waited for me. Mom, I cannot believe you would do this to us. We have no main dish. Everyone is disappointed. Jenna, the kids are crying because there's no turkey. Are you happy? You ruined Thanksgiving over some principle. Tyler, not cool, man. You could have at least given us a heads up you were serious. Dad, this is not how we raised you. A couple of extended family members had chimed in, too. Aunt Linda, what's going on over there? Your mom seems upset. Cousin Mike. Wow, man. A little extreme, isn't it? I scrolled back up through the chat just to make sure I hadn't hallucinated writing my boundary. Nope, there it was. Multiple times. I will not be doing a homemade turkey. If that's a deal breaker, I won't be attending. I took screenshots not to post anywhere, just to have to remind myself I wasn't losing my mind. Later that night, when I got home to my quiet apartment in the hum of my ancient fridge, I called my dad back. He picked up on the first ring, so he said, No, hello. You think you made your point. I wasn't trying to make a point. I said, I told you what I could and couldn't do. You all chose to ignore it. You left us high and dry. He said, Your mother was humiliated. Jenna worked so hard on everything else. Dad, I said, keeping my voice even. What exactly stopped Jenna or you from buying a turkey yesterday or this morning or making one yourselves? Silence. After a beat, he said, We thought you'd do what you always do. Exactly, I said. That's the problem, he sighed, the air whistling slightly through his front teeth. You know your mother lives for these holidays. I know, I said. And I'm not responsible for all the moving parts it takes to make them happen. I have a demanding job. I gave a reasonable alternative. You all turned it down. You didn't have a turkey because you decided that my time and my limits didn't matter as much as gin is aesthetic. That's not fair to your sister. What's not fair? I cut in gently. Is expecting me to function as your personal chef, chauffeur, financial backer, and on-call physician while treating every no like a personal attack. I can't do it anymore. I won't. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Your mother cried. I'm sorry she's upset. I said, I really am, but her feelings don't erase the fact that you were given the information you needed and chose not to act on it. That's on you. He didn't like that. We ended the call not with a slam, but with that heavy, disappointed silence parents deploy when they think they're teaching you a lesson. Over the next week, the family narrative settled into something like, Mark abandoned us on Thanksgiving because he thinks his job makes him more important than everyone else. I know this because Jenna posted a vague Facebook status about some people caring more about their careers than making memories with their nieces and nephews, and Mom commented with a sad face emoji. What they didn't expect was for the story to leak sideways. Aunt Linda called me. Okay, tell me your side, she said, skipping pleasantries. Your mother is running around like you burned the house down. I read her the entire chat. I forwarded her the screenshots with my parents' permission to share within the family, technically implied by them blasting it to half of them already. She hummed along. Oh, she said eventually. Oh no. Yeah, that's not great. Which part? I asked. The part where they act like you didn't warn them, she said. You made it very clear. And your sisters, those are the rules thing. She clicked her tongue. She wants to play hostess, but not do the heavy lifting. That's not hosting, that's directing. I didn't ask her to intervene, but word travels fast in my family. Suddenly, Cousin Mike texted me. Okay, having seen the receipts, I take back the extreme comment. That was a mess. Christmas planning rolled around as it does. Normally, by early December, the group chat would be full of logistics. This time it was quiet. Eventually, Mom sent, we'll be doing a simple Christmas at home this year. Anyone is welcome. Let us know if you can make it. No assignments, no elaborate rules, no passive-aggressive. Everyone pitch in. I waited a day, then replied, I'm working Christmas Eve and part of Christmas Day. I'm available for a short visit in the afternoon on the 26th. I'm happy to bring a dessert from the bakery. No one said, only homemade this time. When I showed up on the 26th with a chocolate cake from a local place, the atmosphere was delicate. Mom fussed with the coffee cups. Dad made small talk about football. Jenna was quieter than usual, rearranging wrapping paper and making sure everyone noticed the kids' matching pajamas. At one point, she pulled me aside into the hallway. You really hurt me, she said, arms folded. The kids didn't understand why Uncle Mark wasn't there. They kept asking. I'm sorry they were disappointed. I said, did you tell them the truth? She frowned. That you refused to bring the turkey? No, I didn't think that would help. I refused to do an unsafe amount of work on top of my job. I said, I offered to pay for a turkey. You said no. That's the truth. She rolled her eyes. You're always so literal. I'm a doctor, I said. Literal keeps people alive. She huffed. You could have just tried harder. I'm already giving a lot of myself, I said. I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep Thanksgiving warm. If hosting matters that much to you, then you need to actually host. That includes cooking or adjusting your expectations. For a second, I thought she might yell. Instead, she just shook her head and said, You've changed. Like it was the worst thing she could think of. Yeah, I said I had to. Over the following months, the temperature settled into something like low contact. I still answered calls about serious medical issues, Dad's medication questions, Mom's concern about a mole, but I stopped responding to every quick question text about minor aches and pains. I started saying, that's something you should ask your own doctor at your next appointment. When they asked me to look over Jenna's new budget because they were thinking of helping her upgrade her minivan, I told them they should talk to a financial planner. When Mom tried to rope me into organizing a big Easter brunch, I said I can show up for 2 hours and I'll bring coffee. That's it. At work, my life was still hectic, but there was a subtle weight off my shoulders. I wasn't squeezing Costco runs and elaborate side dishes into my already overloaded schedule. I used some of my days off to actually rest or see friends instead of playing family project manager. This most recent Thanksgiving, Mom sent a message. We're keeping it simple this year. Small turkey, just us. You're welcome if you're free. I looked at my schedule. I was on call Thursday, off Friday. I wrote, I'll be stopping by Sam's again to see some coworkers. I might swing by in the evening if things are quiet. She replied, we'd like that. No mention of rules, no assignments. When I did stop by for an hour, there was a turkey on the table. It was slightly dry, the gravy a little lumpy. Jenna admitted she'd watched a YouTube video the night before and got confused about when to take it out. "It's fine," Mom said, piling more on everyone's plates. "We're just happy to be together." No one brought up last year. Not directly. But when Mom tried to send me home with half the leftovers since you're on your own, I smiled and said, "Just a couple containers, please, and I'm good on assignments for the rest of the year." Dad snorted and shook his head, but there was a tiny, grudging smile there. The thing is, I didn't sabotage Thanksgiving. I didn't plot or scheme. I didn't set anyone up. I stated what I could realistically do, offered a compromise, and followed through on my boundary when they refused it. They decided that aesthetics and rules mattered more than reality, and the natural consequence was an empty space where a turkey should have been. My life now is calmer in ways that don't look dramatic from the outside. I still work long hours under fluorescent lights. I still listen to heartbeats and reassure people and sign my name on way too many forms. But my time off is mine. I spend it cooking simple meals for myself, meeting friends for coffee, occasionally sleeping in without my phone buzzing with "Can you just for my family?" I still see my parents. I still send my niece and nephew birthday presents. I text Jenna sometimes about neutral things, the kids' school projects, a funny meme. But I no longer volunteer as tribute every time someone says "we need" and looks at me. If there's a lesson here, it's not that you should blow up holidays to prove a point. It's that when you calmly stop filling in all the gaps other people create, they will experience the absence as an emergency. They'll say you changed when what you actually did was step back and let their choices stand on their own. I didn't destroy anyone's traditions. I just stopped subsidizing their refusal to plan. And when the main course failed to appear, the universe simply did the math.